Parts of the state of Florida are going to see extra rain chances as we head into the weekend, courtesy of a tropical wave. What's going on, guys? I'm certified meteorologist Jonathan Kagis. In this video, we're going to track that wave for you and give you the forecast for the northern side of the state through central Florida and then, of course, into South Florida. We're going to end this with a pretty long tropical update here. There are 4 waves to watch, most of them not a concern for Florida. Really all of them, but there's a few that we need to keep it back in the back of our mind anyway. So we're going to break that down for you towards the end of the video, so stick around for that. If you do find this content helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help us out a lot. And if you do want to stay updated on all things Florida weather, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you on board. First and foremost, I'm going to show you the future radar for the rest of Friday into Saturday from a central Florida perspective. Then I'm going to zoom this out. I'll show you that tropical wave, and then we'll go into the zones across the state of Florida. If you want to scrub across the screen or move across to the time code that you want to see, those are going to be in the description below. All right, so there we go through the early afternoon. Some rocking storms right through the I-4 corridor. By 6 o'clock, maybe a stray shower hanging on to the villages or into Bushnell, Denellen, but most of the active stuff, most of the thunderstorm activity going to be along into the east of I-4 and then fizzling out as we get into 8-9. I'm optimistic that most of the second half of your Friday evening anyway is going to be on the drier side after helping out the lawn just a little bit. All right, so here we go at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. Most of central Florida is going to be on the drier side. I don't think it's too terribly wet, but look at what changes here. Notice we have been dealing with storms kind of firing up here and moving that way. It's going to be the opposite, and the reason for that is because of that new tropical wave that we've been talking about really for the past couple of days, sending moisture in this direction. So I will show you where that wave is in a second, and we're going to track that for you. That's 11 o'clock. That's round 1. I think we'll see another decent shot for storms again as we move into the day on Sunday. High temperatures, as you saw there, it's a later opportunity for those storms to start, so we are going to heat things back up again. Nothing too crazy, not like last week, but back to the low to mid 90s again, as again, we'll start things off dry, and then we're going to have a few more storms come through. Here is the deal, though. Here is our tropical wave. I'm going to take this screen full, and I'm going to point it out. There it is right there. So that mess through the Turks and Caicos and into the Bahamas is our wave. I'm going to set this into motion. Notice the increased moisture into the Bahamas, and then eventually, especially into South Florida. So here we go. Here is the axis of that tropical wave that's kind of hanging near the Bahamas, and then you kind of see that little curl or that little pinwheel as it tries to develop a tight area of low pressure by the time it moves to Florida. It doesn't, but what it does, it helps to bring in some tropical moisture for us. Note here, by the time we get into Sunday night, it's starting to become a little more round rather than elongated. So there are indications anyway that this one could become a tropical system on its way towards Texas or extreme southwest Louisiana. This is not going to be a player for us in terms of a named tropical system, but again, it will bring the state of Florida, especially the central and southern portion, increased rain chances. The northern half of Florida is still going to be mainly dry from that drier air brought to us by that system, from the pattern change that we've been highlighting. In terms of the rainfall this weekend, note where most of it is. Again, Panhandle, we're pretty dry. We may see a few stray showers this weekend in Tallahassee, up toward Pensacola as well. But for us on the southern and central portion of the state, anywhere from a ½ inch, maybe up to an 1.5 inches of rain, and certainly we'll know it in those tropical downpours. We can double or triple that if we get stuck under one of those thunderstorms. So that's going to be important to note as well as we have that push, that surge of tropical moisture. So for tomorrow in your pinpoint Florida forecast, you see it there. Lots of sunshine towards the Panhandle. Bonifay pushing 100 degrees tomorrow because our air is going to be a little drier. And because all the storm activity is going to be towards our south, a little hotter as well in Tallahassee, 94 in Pensacola. You see we're back to the upper 80s. Of course, the water influencing that for us in Cedar Key at 20% shot for storms. A little bit higher chance for storms towards Gainesville. Then you see those storm chances increase. The reason, again, we're closer to that tropical wave axis. We saw the sea breeze light up and push inland. At the Cape, we'll see a 20% chance for rain. Then that'll quickly push away from the coast, increasing rain chances for Orlando into Tampa, Inverness, about a 60% chance for storms. Same deal in St. Petersburg through St. Pete Beach. Now in South Florida, look at the deal here. Again, this is going to be the closest. I'll draw it back out again. Our tropical wave was kind of situated just like this, and that is why we have such a high opportunity for those storms on Saturday, 87 in West Palm, 70% shot for storms, though. And then these are gradually going to try to push themselves off to the western side of the state, off towards the Gulf Coast of Florida. Fort Myers, we're going to have a 60% shot for storms, and then also into Naples as well. So not a complete washout for your weekend, but those rain chances certainly going to get back up there. Chances for tropical development also going up, especially in the Gulf of Mexico. It turned that little yellow X. Here's our tropical wave for the weekend. You see it right there. Now orange again. So those chances for development going up. We've been talking about this, that this was going to be a sneaky chance for development once it got beyond Florida, because the wind shear backs off in the Gulf and the water temperatures are record warm. Here's the deal. I think for the most part, anyway, the bark is going to be a little worse in its bite. This wave out here, this is Invest 98L. That's going to go up in kind of this direction over here. Here is Bermuda. The middle one, that's going to be Invest 99L. This one kind of goes up in that direction. I have the spaghetti plots to show you also in a second. This is the one, if Florida needs to watch one, it's going to be that one there. It's the one that's starting off early, the leading wave here of this kind of wave train that's got itself going in the Atlantic, because once we get into next week, the steering currents kind of get really weird, and if this were able to develop. Now, this is going to be a really big if, okay? If it were to develop, it might bounce around in here somewhere, okay? So we're going to have to watch that closely over the next few days, getting into next week. But the reason I say if is because of this. Partially anyway, because of the dust, we also have increasing wind shear, and typically the Eastern Caribbean is a tropical graveyard. It's rare that we keep something developing in the eastern side of the Caribbean. There's San Juan, Puerto Rico. Again, look at all the brown around us. That's going to be the dust. Here are our two Invest out in the central and eastern Atlantic. Look at all the dust around. So while there are increasing percentages as designated by the National Hurricane Center, there's still a lot of dry, dusty air. The Atlantic, although it looks a little crazy out there, I don't really think it's ready to go gangbusters just yet. Climatologically speaking, the dust should be a little less prolific than it is, and it's my hope that some of the aggressive models that are out there aren't taking into account that we still have an uncharacteristically amount of dust chilling in the central Atlantic right now. So that's going to be my hope anyway. That might be a wish cast, again, watching it closely, but we will see. All right, so here's Invest 99L. This is going to be that center one. Remember, we had those three X's. As soon as this gets done playing, we had X here. This was the middle X, and then 98L is right out here. So I'll bring that full again because my 1X is off the screen. But those are where the three Invests are. We're looking at the middle one, and this is the one, again, the Northeast Caribbean should be paying attention to just a little bit, because look at the track of it. I do think, though, it's going to have an option to go like this, and then remember all that dry, dusty air that's hanging out there. That's my hope. We're going to watch it closely. We are close to a tropical depression out near the Cabo Verde Islands. It's certainly the most prolific wave of the three. It's looking the best on satellite, and it certainly has the almost that low-level wind field look, that counterclockwise flow. The good thing about this one is it shouldn't mess with anybody. This one should stay out there and may become a short-lived depression or tropical storm out there. But again, remember where all that dry air was. It was right about through here. It's got to go right through it. Not going to be easy for it to survive once it gets up there. So I don't think its window for development is going to be open all that long. So again, that's some good news here. I do want to show you the low-level spin. I always like to show this to you guys because it really tells the story. And again, the Euro's been the most aggressive, but notice here, it's got the open wave here. It's got another open wave here. And then by later on August 18th, it does have a tropical depression, at least on the model. It has the wind field closed, that counterclockwise circulation. So we're going to watch that. So there is our tropical wave through Florida. I mentioned it has the chance for developing. This is the wave becomes a little more robust. You see that flare up of red there. Still an open wave at that time, but there's going to be a shot for that thing to become a short-lived system because of land being there as it moves towards the Gulf Coast of Texas. Maybe as far north as Houston, maybe towards Galveston or Corpus Christi or Brownsville. But if you have any friends that live there, if you happen to be tuning in from Texas, again, it could be one of those sneaky systems that we're going to have to pay attention to over the weekend just to see what happens with this thing as it clears Florida and moves over the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico, okay? Here is the interesting thing here. This is that leading wave that I told you, that I showed you about. It was the one highlighted in yellow. There's a ton of uncertainty with this one because the European is by far the most aggressive with this. And it blows it up there and then kind of just takes it around and lifts it up back towards the Bahamas and then kind of pinwheels, I should say, the game, pinball. That's the word I'm looking for. The pinball thing. It kind of bounces around back and forth between the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. That is the whole deal with the steering currents being pretty much non-existent there. With those lighter winds, it has the opportunity to bounce. So that would be why if it develops, and again, it's a big if, because of the environment not being that great for development, which is good for us, but still something to be mindful of as we clear the weekend. There's August 25th, and as we get into next week for sure. So we have our eyes on it. Keep it right here. Again, we're going to have an update. Tropics Watch Live. Again, tune in at 11 o'clock on Monday. We're going to break down all the happenings from the weekend, all of the developments in the modeling, all of the developments in the environment, and we're going to give you a complete rundown on that. Remember, on this channel at 11 o'clock, Tropics Watch Live. I'll catch you guys then. Hey, if you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up. And if you do want to stay updated on all things Florida weather, including in-depth tropical analysis here through the peak of hurricane season and beyond, you come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you next time.